Welcome to the Sisters-in-Loss podcast. Abortion and elective termination has always been a topic in the U.S. with many opposing views. Roe v. Wade was a 1973 landmark decision by the U.S. Supreme Court. The court ruled that a state law that banned abortion, except to save the life of a mother, was unconstitutional. The ruling made abortion legal in many circumstances. With the 2020 presidential election right around the corner, states like Alabama, Georgia, and recently Missouri are attempting to pass laws to reduce gestational age for abortions up to banning abortions in those states altogether, attempting to overturn Roe versus Wade. For September, we are exploring the healing and grief side of abortion on the Sisters-in-Loss podcast. In the medical world, the terminology miscarriages are called spontaneous abortions or pregnancy loss. And in this community, we have to learn how to extend grace to individuals who electively terminate their pregnancies no matter their choice. Join us this month as we explore abortion stories and how healing, grief, and shame can keep us all bound if we do not speak up and share. Welcome to the Sisters-in-Loss podcast. You're listening to the Sisters-in-Loss podcast, a faith-based grief and loss podcast for Black women, where you will hear stories of miscarriage, infant loss, stillbirth, and infertility to learn there is a testimony in tragedy. You will learn how to heal, gain clarity, find hope and peace, and turn your pain into your purpose after loss. I'm your host, Erica M. McAfee. Welcome to episode 115 of the Sisters-in-Loss podcast. When today's guest became pregnant with her daughter, she sobbed to a friend. How was she going to take care of one when she had given up another? Latoya Smith shares her abortion story in today's episode, how postpartum depression along with guilt and shame of her abortion came alive after having her daughter, and how she has turned her pain into power by helping other post-abortive women eliminate shame, guilt, and regret from their abortions. This episode is for you to listen to if you have had an abortion and are ready to release the shame and stigma and want a community to help you. Here is Latoya Smith. Well, thank you so much, Latoya, for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So I'd like to begin the episode with you sharing a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Okay. Well, my name is Latoya Matthews. I guess right now I'm calling myself a support coach, and I help women post-abortion break free from shame, guilt, and regret so that they can experience healing, freedom, and hope. And this is just a journey that I've been on for over 16 years, and having my abortion when I was 18 years old. And so it's just something I've been very passionate about, but hadn't really been able to find the confidence to step out in that. So I found the confidence to start helping women, just be free from the shame and guilt that they've been experiencing since having an abortion.
Yeah. So take us back on that journey and share with us your abortion story.
Okay, well, at the age of 18, I was fresh out of high school and found myself in the predicament of sitting in our small town in Mississippi in our health department, having someone tell me, "You're pregnant." And, outside of hearing you have cancer, I think hearing you're pregnant when you're not expecting it has an impact on you as well. So I found myself sitting in the health department hearing those words. And after she told me that, it was kind of like a scene from Charlie Brown when he's in the classroom. All I kind of heard was womp, 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 womp. Everything just kind of, I just kind of blanked out because I was shocked and surprised about the news, which I shouldn't have been. I mean, I put myself in that position, but I just kind of made up in my mind. I was like, I have the choice between a tennis scholarship and a basketball scholarship that I could take. And I'm like, I just can't do this right now. And I didn't want to bring a child into the environment that I was in my current situation. And I didn't feel like I had a good relationship with my mom at the time. So I was just like, you know what, this is what it is. I'm going to schedule the appointment. And, my mind was kind of already made up. So I found myself at the abortion clinic, having to walk in with my head down because I'm just like, the protesters are outside and I'm already kind of feeling ashamed about it. So I walk in and I have the procedure done and, they have me on the table and the procedure's done and, now they have me in a room sitting so that I could, I guess heal in a matter of minutes. And then, right after my abortion, I went school shopping, which, who does that? But I went school shopping not knowing, that I needed to take some time, but I went school shopping and immediately that night, I just found myself, everything just came crashing down on me. The tears, the emotions, thinking to myself, what did I just do? And since that time in 2003, when I had my abortion, for the next probably 6 years, 6 to 7 years, I found myself praying every night, asking God to forgive me for my decision that I had made. And I also found that I had a pain in my abdomen, in my stomach, which was kind of I felt like it was a reminder of me making the decision that I've made. It was kind of like the enemy was like, this is what you get for what done. So I had this pain in my abdomen and I prayed every night. And it wasn't until I think around 2010 when my pastor introduced to us a book by Lisa Bevere called The True Measure of a Woman. And I went through the first two chapters. And in the second chapter, she talked about cleaning out closets. And I found myself writing in this book that I had. She asked, what did I have to offer to the world? And I found myself saying that I didn't have, or writing that I didn't have anything to offer to anyone because of the shame that I carried from the decision for my abortion. I just felt like I was just such a bad person that God didn't forgive me for what I'd done. And I just found myself just saying that, there's something that I needed to clean out my closet. And I was kind of already in depression because my grandmother had passed away in 2006 and she was very dear to me. So on top of my abortion, I'm also dealing with the loss of my grandmother, which still not having any time, to heal with what I was going through. And so I found myself writing in this book that, what, I have nothing to offer. I like to encourage young women and I like to encourage women, but I don't have anything to offer them. And so I just stopped in chapter 2 because I was like, what's the point of going through this book when I have nothing to really offer? Because that's kind of the state that I was in. And so when we came to meet together for the women's meeting, we went over that chapter and we asked the questions, what do you have in your closet that you need to clean out? And I mentioned my abortion. And my pastor, she told me, once I told her that, how I had prayed every night for forgiveness, she told me, when you prayed the first time, God forgave you. And all I could do was start crying because no one had ever told me that. And so even from that moment of her letting me know that I was healed or forgiven for what I had done, the pain in my abdomen went away. So it was like I knew that God forgave me, but I was still dealing with the unforgiveness of myself. And so I still found myself, just kind of going through the motions, knowing that I was forgiven, but I hadn't forgiven myself. And it wasn't until probably 2012, 2013, when I was sitting in church and my pastor was like, I see death in your eyes. Because I was just kind of, giving up on, everything. I had my daughter in 2007. And that was a hard time for me as well because my mom had came to help me with her. And I didn't know anything about postpartum depression at that time. I wasn't on social media, so I was very naive to, postpartum depression and what came after having a child. And I found myself holding my daughter and she was crying and she wouldn't stop crying. And my mom would hold her and she would stop crying. And then when I held her, she would start crying again. And my husband went out of town to go visit family. And so I found myself running outside asking, telling my husband, that she doesn't love me. And, even when I found that I was pregnant, I told my friend sitting in the break room, I was like, I don't know how I can have a child when I've given up one already. So it took a toll on me mentally with my abortion. But after 2012, 2013, when my pastor told me that she saw death in my eyes, I knew that I needed to turn things around because, for the sake of my husband, for the sake of my daughter. And I knew that as long as I was in that state, the enemy was going to continue to bring that over my head. So I began to do the inner work of just knowing who I was in Christ and knowing what his word says about me and forgiving myself and knowing that I made the decision that was best for me at that time. And so I had to be okay with that decision. And, it was just kind of, the 10 years that I held that over my head, it was a long road. It was a struggle. It was days that I felt suicidal. It was days that I was just like, I don't want to do anything. It was just a rough ride. And I could say probably for me, having my abortion was in the way that I felt because I didn't know who I was in Christ already, because I had dealt with insecurities, because I had eczema as a child, and I had, dealt with some things already that made me feel less of a person. And on top of that, having an abortion, it didn't help with the situation. So it was just a lot on top of things that not being able to be healed and finding the healing that I need. But after 2013, I started doing the work and, just seeing God just break some things off of me. And, I'm still on the journey because sometimes the enemy will try to tell me things, but, I just have to keep in mind that God words trump whatever the enemy has to say.
Yes, amen. One thing I love that you said is that you had to forgive yourself. So for my listeners who are out there who may have had, and this month I'm really just focusing on abortions and really talking about how the grieving process on abortion is very similar to the grieving process of if you've had a miscarriage or a loss, and just really that part of forgiving yourself. Because in both situations, it's a mental breakdown in your mind where you feel like your body's failed you on one side. If you have had a miscarriage or infant loss, or you've gone through some alternative fertility treatments and have not been able to conceive a child naturally or through your alternative fertility treatments. And then even with having an abortion, you are really just trying to forgive yourself just for all of the guilt and the shame that you put on yourself and that others put on you for the decision that you made. Our Healing in Prayer Summit is coming soon, just in time for Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month in October. The summit will be held on Tuesday nights for the entire month of October, beginning on October the 1st, 2019 at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Registration to the Healing in Prayer Summit is free. And guess what? Everything is going to be online and live. We're going to be speaking on topics of healing after loss, trying again after loss, therapy after loss, parenting after loss, and stress management after loss. To register, go to ericamcafee.com/summit. Once again, ericamcafee.com/summit. And I can't wait to see you there. So I would really love for you to just go into a little bit more detail about just how that whole 10-year process that you mentioned, that you got to a place where you were like, okay, I'm good. I'm confident in myself now as I, have more children and bring more babies into this world, that I won't forget about what happened, but I'm on the right path of forgiveness for myself, for my body, for what I did.
Well, I think one of the things that I had to just come and realize is that even though I made my decision to abort at that time, I told myself that that was the last time. If I put myself back in that position then, which I did in 2006, I just had to deal with that and find the best way that I can. And over those 10 years, and after really coming to terms with it, I just had to say, you know what, I did what I had to do for myself at that time. And I didn't want to be, that person on welfare. I didn't want to have to depend on support from someone else, or, miss out on an opportunity that I thought would be best for me. And so I just really had to, take accountability for it and really just be okay with the decision that I made, because, unforgiveness, I think I read a quote that said that Oprah said that unforgiveness is not bringing up that matter again with someone else. And, the same thing with self-forgiveness. Self-forgiveness is not bringing my abortion up again, to use it as something to take me off track. So by walking in that unforgiveness, I was, constantly reminding myself, or the enemy was reminding myself, that I was just such a bad person. But I had to get to the place that said, you know what, I'm human. I made this decision. This is what I did, but that can no longer stay over my head. And I'm a big person with the meanings of names and, numbers and things like that. And it's not a coincidence that my name is Latoya, which means victorious one. And so I knew that once I began to get that forgiveness, I knew that I had victory over whatever the enemy was trying to, tell me who I was. But I had to remind myself who I was and whose I was, and just coming face to face with what I had done and coming face to face with myself. And it was a lot of times where I would just felt like I didn't have anybody in my corner. I just felt like I was in the wilderness, but it was all, I felt like God was just preparing me to just lean more into Him so that I can know who I was, and just really having affirmations and speaking those affirmations, over myself, and just coming to terms with that. Because I think with unforgiveness, we don't come to terms with it. We like to sit, in it, and unforgiveness causes us to, sit in that space where we allow the enemy to tell us things. But I got the self-help books, I got the Bible, and I journaled. And that was a key thing. I've been journaling for, a long time, since like 2002, 2003. But journaling really helped with my process of forgiveness as well.
Yes, I love the journaling. Journaling helps us in so many aspects of our lives, but
Yeah.
definitely when we've gone through the trauma that we've been through. So, yes, I absolutely love that. I would love for you to share with us any resources. You mentioned some of the self care books that you picked up along your journey that have really just helped you and inspired you. And it just doesn't have to be books. You can talk about any other things that you use, whether it's a website or a coach or what have you, that's helped you on your journey to healing and forgiveness.
Well, like I mentioned, even though I didn't finish The True Measure of a Woman by Lisa Bevere, it just started the process of me cleaning up the closet. And I knew that even though I didn't finish that book, the first two chapters were very important for me to get to where I am today. Because, we missed out on some things when we don't finish the process, or, we're not aware of it. But The True Measure of a Woman helped begin that process. And I also I read Lioness Arising, and I forgot, I think that may be by Lisa Bevere as well, but Lioness Arising. And also, we started a book in our church called Spirit Life Training, and that's by George Jensen. I think it's George Jensen. But that was one of the things that helped get or Timothy Jorgensen. And it just kind of helped me get things into alignment. And it talks about, if you knew what God has put within you, you would train it to become your greatest asset. So that Spirit Life Training book, along with Lioness Arising and The True Measure of a Woman, it helped begin my process of healing and just really knowing, who I was through this process. I never really was big on podcasting, but now I am in love with Patrice Washington's Redefine Wealth. Her podcast is kind of, helped change my mindset as she talks about the pillars and everything. So it has really continued, my growth of really just being intentional with, going on my healing journey, because even though I came through it, every day we're still on a journey to heal. So I think those have been some of the books that have really helped me, as well as my devotional called Discovery, which was something God just put upon my heart to write, for women. And it kind of asks the hard questions, questions that we don't like to sit and think about, but it really makes you think. And, it's just awesome just to hear women say that the devotional has really kind of helped them sit still and just really think about some things, because we're such an autopilot mode that we're not really aware of, what our body is saying or what's going on, within us. So just having that awareness piece just really helps with the process. And so those are some of the things that have helped me along my journey. There's a lot more. I read a lot, but for the most part, those are the main ones that I can think of right now.
Those are all great recommendations. I'll make sure I put links for all of them in the show notes, and as well to Patrice Washington's story where she shared on the podcast her journey through secondary infertility. I'll link that as well as her podcast, because I'm a fan favorite as well of Redefining Well. So
Yes.
let's talk about your work. And you call yourself like a support coach. I love that. So talk about what you are doing to help women who are in that space when it comes to, removing the shame and the stigmas around abortion.
Well, with and the reason I call myself a support coach, because I just don't like the term post-abortion coach, because we're trying to break free from that. And I just don't want that to be a label that we continue to, have on us as we go through our healing journey. So just being a support coach, I want to be able to support you and just know that you have a safe space where you can come and, your feelings are validated. You have someone who really understands and have been through the trauma, of abortion. So I want to be able to provide a non-judgmental space, a place where you can come and get the healing that you need by helping you rediscover who you are, just, making a commitment to yourself that you're going to finish the work. Because I think a lot of times when going through an abortion, because of the thoughts that we think of ourselves, we don't stay committed to ourselves. And therefore we give people permission to just kind of walk all over us because we don't feel like we're worthy enough. But I want to be able to remind women that you're still worthy. No matter what your decision is, God still loves you. And, his grace and mercy is new each and every day. And so I just want to be able to help you rediscover who you are and redefine your life and restore your faith. Just getting those things in line to where you can take the path on being a better version of yourself, and just knowing that you made a mistake, but you're not your mistake. So I just really want to support you in whatever way that I can, and letting you know, because I'm really big on encouragement, empowerment, and inspiration. And just knowing that most women think that they're alone in this, that they don't have the support or have, what they need to get through this journey. I want to be able to let them know that I'm here for you. There's nothing to be ashamed of. And just being vulnerable, because sometimes we bury those feelings and we don't know why we're constantly doing the same thing over and over again, because we haven't dealt with the emotions that's going on the inside of us. And I think that, I'm really big in the word, and the scripture says, through this belly shall flow rivers of living water. And everything for a woman is held in the womb. And if the womb is not healed, then we're not able to add value, add life to the people that surround us. So I want to be able to help break forth, those living waters that's inside of you, so that you can help, raise your children, help, be a better woman, be a better friend, be, a better wife. So I want to be able to support you in that journey, because I think also for the most part, a lot of us being a mom post-abortion is even harder, just knowing that I've given up one and now I have one, that's here. And who am I, to be blessed with this? And so I just want to be able to support, women in all walks of life who have gone through an abortion, just let them know that they have someone who understands them and to help break them free of that shame, guilt, and regret.
Yes, I love it. I love it. So, what encouraging words can you leave with the listeners that are here who may have had an abortion and are still on that journey towards healing?
I would like to say you don't have to go through this alone. And it's okay to be okay with the decision that you made. You're not a bad person. You're still a loving person. You just did what was best for you at that time. And be okay with that. And there's this quote that I found that I really love. And the quote stated, "We're not healing from the abortions that we had. We're healing from the thoughts that society has against abortion." And so I think the healing in that quote is so true, because what society has placed on abortion causes women to draw back. And I think that the more or the less we talk about abortion, the more isolated women are, the more angry, we are. And we don't have to be that way if we just have compassion for people. And I just want to, let the audience know that you have someone that's on your side, and it's okay that you made that decision. That was the best decision. And know that God still loves you, and that He has His arms around you, and there's still compassion for you, and that there's still a life waiting for you to live your best life that's waiting for you on the other side of healing. And healing isn't going to be easy. It's going to take some work, but it's going to be well worth it. The healing is worth it, because the best you is on the other side of that. When you put your best, when you start putting your foot forward and knowing that I'm an amazing person, God still loves me, and there's still hope for tomorrow.
Love that. There is still hope for tomorrow. So where can our guests connect with you after the show airs?
They can connect with me on Instagram. I am the handle DTHE Latoya Matthews, LATOYA MATHEWS. And I am also on Facebook at the handle LANDR Image Group. And also you can connect with me on my website, www.latoyamatthews.com.
Thank you so much, Latoya, for sharing your story and your light with us. It was greatly appreciated. I know a lot of people will be blessed.
Yes, and I also want to say, if there's anyone that's listening as well, I am going to be hosting a free webinar called 3 Ways to Find Self-Forgiveness After Abortion. And I would love to invite you to come if you've been dealing with forgiveness and you're ready to, break free from that, and, ready to just live life and get the tools that you need to, continue on your journey. So I just want to encourage anybody that's out there that's still walking in unforgiveness to join me for the 3 Ways to Find Self-Forgiveness. And I'll be doing that in September.
Yeah. So send it to us, and I'll make sure I include it in a link when your episode airs. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. For show notes, go to ericaandmcafee.com/podcast. Have you joined the Sisters in Loss online community? If not, join us online at sistersinloss.mn.co. That's where you get all of the tools and the resources and freebies from each of the episodes. I can't wait to talk with you all in the online community. If not, until next time, we will see you next week.